the phrase be greedy when others are fearful? How about this? Don't follow the herd. Well, it's one thing to say it, it's one thing to read it, but it is certainly something completely different to actually execute in that environment. And I have to say, if you're not paying attention, lots and lots of people are afraid and they are doing what people always do, pull back. This is going to create an opportunity for just a few select individuals. Matt, what's going on? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is something for me that like resonates so deeply because I talk to investors every single day. I talk to home buyers every single day who are buying, their primary, and it's just maybe it's just human nature, and it's people are so used to it they don't even understand it's happening, but the majority of people, the masses, are feeling a certain way, talking a certain way, following a certain path, and you just blindly follow. And, like me and you talked about offline, the 5% or the 10% or whoever is actively involved right now who understands. Like I listen to a lot of investment podcasts that are investments outside of, real estate. And it's the same philosophy. It's the Warren Buffett philosophy of like, you're not going to get a great deal on a stock when everybody's excited about business or this company or anything. You get a great price and you make a great investment when others are scared and there's uncertainty and there's fear. And so in the housing market, what happens when there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt and everything that's going on right now, to be quite honest, in a lot of markets, is investors who are active and who realize like this is the time to play, this is the time to take action. They're going in there, they're negotiating better prices, credits, even, some structures that I'm not involved in where, the seller was willing to carry back and do this. Just talk to somebody who left a house in Texas and basically gave the home to somebody else, zero down, let him assume it because otherwise he's selling and minus fees, he's got to write a check for $30,000. So rather than do that, and so for that person who bought it, it was an opportunity of like, I'm going to assume a loan that's better than what I can get. I don't have to qualify with the bank. And like, I get into a house for 0% down. Like you wouldn't have that opportunity if you just said, you know what? Most of the sheep, most of the herd are over there in the corner crying and screaming about how it's not fair or it's, unaffordable or whatever the word you want to use. Like those people are not winning. I can guarantee you that.
No, it's really interesting because I've been through multiple cycles now and actually executed in multiple cycles. I think it's kind of funny. So when I go back to 2006, we had 8 houses. And if people don't remember, 2006, the bubble was still blowing up. And I went to a presentation from Bruce Norris, and he had a topic called California Crash. All of my assets were in California at the time, and I'm like, well, I better go figure this out. I don't want a California crash. What the hell is this guy talking about? So he puts it down. I research it. I learn some stuff, and I decide to sell. So we sell everything, but we didn't sell and pay taxes. We did 1031, and we went from 8 to 80 units, and then the whole world broke loose. So again, it's really funny for me to think because I've been through this and I'm in it right now, right? That's why I'm calling it a buyer's market in a lot of the country, not everywhere. And it's getting better. I mean, just the other day, Lennar, right? Lennar, a big national builder, they created an investor website where you can go and look at their communities, and they're courting investors. They're offering, I think that standard package is a 7-year ARM. Sub 5, something like that. Go to Lennar and figure it out. Google it yourself. But the point is, people in my community are going to Lennar. One guy got a 27% discount paying cash. Another guy's doing a multiple house purchase, probably somewhere between 15 and 18% off, right, with lending, right? So he's only putting 20% down, and that won't last long. Lennar will blow through their inventory in the next 90 days. And there will be some people who took action and got deals done, and others will go like, whoops, I missed it again. Right? These buying opportunities with these windows, they're not very big. This is my second real buyer's market, and it's my first buyer's market in 12 years. And I just love the fact that all the doomers are saying biggest housing bubble ever and the next GFC is coming. I'm like, keep it up, guys. Keep the sheep on the sidelines. You're making me rich.
Yeah. One thing that we haven't even talked about too, because we align with all of that, where it's just, it's simple. People are scared. Go out and find a good deal, and you'll learn, and you'll look back on history. All the great deals are in quote unquote depressed markets, quote unquote scary and uncertain markets. But one thing that just came to mind was stuff I've read this morning and in days prior is this administration might do something. Everyone's calling for Bill Pulte, FHFA, like, you got to do something. There's a housing crisis. Imagine
we should talk about that.
Yeah, we know what they do, right? They pump demand. They don't know much else as far as strategy goes.
Let's actually talk about that. So President Trump, according to Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, said President Trump, in very short order, may be declaring a national housing emergency. Now, those are cute words. And, as somebody that's been in the game in a while, that could mean lots of things. But if we step back and look at that at 10,000 feet, it really means one of two things. One, they go after supply. Now, how could the federal government go after supply? Well, they can't do it directly because housing construction and laws and rules and regulations and all of that are state and city held. Now, they can create incentives. They can say, hey, we've got this $50 billion bucket of money that if you do X, Y, and Z, we will release to you. So they can create incentive dollars, but they can't directly enforce or create anything. They could also theoretically take some government land and sell it at a discount, lease it, something. But again, then you have to realize that most of the government land is not in and around populated areas. Some of it is, but a lot of it isn't. And the last thing I'll say about supply side is it's slow and it's not sexy, and you will see no immediate impact. When I stop there and I say, does any of that sound like President Trump? Does President Trump like slow, no impact, and no headlines?
Right. Stuff that'll take impact after he's left office.
That's not the guy that I know. So then you have to go to the other side of the equation and go, okay, national housing emergency demand. What could he do there? He could do lots of things, right? I don't know if people remember this. I believe it was President Obama back during the early part of the GFC. He created an $8,000 tax incentive.
Yep.
And if you've read my book, One Rental at a Time, it was the only house I ever flipped. I bought a house before the announcement and I sold it after the announcement and made 50 grand because demand spiked. It was just blind luck timing. He could do that again. He could create some kind of $10, $15, $20, $25,000 first-time home buyer tax credit. He could issue, Bill Pulte could issue some kind of $5,000 buy down for all first-time home buyers to lower. I mean, they could theoretically do all kinds of things. Shoot, you want to know a crazy thing they could do? This is bananas. They could buy mortgage-backed securities. Do you want to know why mortgage rates went so low last time? Because the government was the largest buyer of mortgage-backed securities. Now, again, I'm not saying they're doing any of these. I'm just saying it's possible. And to close this out like I did supply, does this sound like President Trump? Fast, immediate, headline grabbing? Yeah, I think it does. So which one do you think he does, folks? Supply or demand?
Yeah. And just historically, like just about everybody in government, whether it's right or wrong or me or you think it's the right play,
they're buying votes, man. That's all they're doing.
Right. Yeah. The demand, like that's just the politicians' play is like, let's pump free money. We're going to spin this in the greatest, light possible, California with the California dream for all. Yeah. I don't personally think that really helped that many people. Small little bucket of a few thousand people that got free money. But what it did indirectly was hurt every single other person, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that all of a sudden were like, oh, I had to offer $40,000 more, $50,000 more because some people are getting incentives to buy this. They can afford to pay more. And so that's the problem. And, there's a warning wrapped in this that if something like this happens, that has upward pressure on prices. That has, the opposite effect that you want if you're looking for affordability, if you're looking for the housing market to be softer or easier. So like we might just look back 5 years from now, 10 years from now and be like, remember that period in 25 where you could go out as a buyer and you could negotiate a discount in price, some seller credits from just about any seller. Remember when the builders were giving them away? Offering somebody like Mike mentioned a 27% discount. Remember when? Because, people are really short-sighted and they forget really quick about how nasty it is as a buyer to operate in an environment where there's more demand than there is supply. It's not fun. You waive contingencies, you pay above list, you do things, based on emotion, and you get really burnt out and fed up, and you just say, forget it. And then you write an offer that's not a great deal versus today's market, more fear and uncertainty, but absolutely more deals being had.
Yeah. So I want the audience to reply. Leave me notes in the comments. What do you think? Do you think President Trump is going to stoke demand, or do you think he's going to go ahead and unlock supply? I think that's a very important question because it will have immediate impacts on the market, whether he goes after demand or supply. But back to the topic at hand, be greedy when others are fearful. It is, it's always been a cute saying. Everybody says they want to do it, but when the time comes, almost nobody does it. The other way I look at this is the herd. One of the things that I learned doing real estate for 30 years is I never want to be in the herd. And let me give you an example. So I think it was 2021. I was speaking at a San Jose meetup, and I was one of the two speakers. The other speaker was a syndicator. And this syndicator was a newer investor, never owned a rental in their life, but had access to some people in Central, say Ohio. I don't remember if it was Ohio or Detroit, whatever, somewhere Midwest. And basically what I remember at the end of that conversation was I was the old boomer, boring, slow, one rental at a time guy. And everybody wanted to talk to the brand new syndicator with no experience who wanted to take their money and go buy 200 unit apartments in Ohio or wherever it was. And that was very eye-opening to me. I saw the same thing in 05 and 06 with people going to these crazy ARM products. I saw the same things with Airbnb, right? It's one thing to have Airbnb on the water. It's something very different to be a mile and a half away next to the dump, right? Not all houses are designed to be Airbnbs. And then it goes back to BRRRR, right? There's a time to BRRRR and not. And it's just funny for me to watch the herd because when I see the herd move, I instinctively go the other way. It's like, because I know how that ends. You guys all run off the cliff together. It's crazy.
Yeah. And for Mr. Conservative that you were in 21 when mass hysteria, everybody was just throwing money at everything. And, there was peak euphoria in real estate. And I know all too well what happened with a vast, a big pile of those syndications where, they went to zero. And I've got multiple stories, may or may not have a personal story around
may or may not
plead the fifth, but syndication money got lit on fire. And so that's the time where, everybody's doing it because everybody's doing it. Yeah. And you've got to stop and think as an investor, am I going to do that? Or am I going to do something that feels uncomfortable that, I don't have as much social proof because not as many people are doing it. But the truth of the matter is you get in the right rooms, you got plenty of social proof. You get in the school community of one rental at a time, you've got people winning, right? But you wander off and you step into, the doom land. You might go down the rabbit hole of some YouTube videos of, the masses that love clicks and love all the,
At the end of the day, I think when I look back on 10 years from now, so it'll be 2035, something I believe today will be even more true. If you want to be wealthy, you have to own assets. And being a doomer is never a good idea because you'll never own assets. And in a world where inflation is a feature and not a bug, it never pays to be a doomer. It just never pays to be a doomer.
I wonder
I
what
don't know what to
doomers
tell you.
want to invest in. If you asked a doomer today, Mike, like given $100,000 got deposited in your bank today, what do you do with that money? That'd be
So
interesting.
I actually have a sarcastic answer to that. My first answer is most of them will buy houses. I really believe that. I believe most of them don't believe what they're saying. I think they've tapped into the fear vein and they're stuck. If you go back and look at their comments, they're all whiners and complainers and quitters, but they can't change. Like anytime they create a video that's even slightly positive, their community lights them up. So they're stuck. But I think in reality, most of them will probably just bury their cash or buy gold or, I don't know. Maybe it's guns and ammo. I don't know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Who knows? All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I know investors are doing work because again, I see it every day. How can people reach out to you?
Reach out to me and my team. Go to greatmortgagebroker.com, fill out the form. I'm working on something right now as well, where the 12 videos that I shared with you, and they've only been available in your course. I'm going to package that in a way to where
nice.
I just get it in more people's hands.
Beautiful.
Because I realized like valuable information: how to read a loan estimate, how to choose a loan officer, what does all this mortgage jargon mean. And then I realized I watched a little bit of it recently, Mike, and I'm like, there's some good stuff in there. There's some good value in there. And so, subscribe to Matt the Mortgage Guy on YouTube.
There you go.
In the links, there's going to be stuff to access that. But if you want to get started with me and my team, you want to get yourself pre-approved, see the numbers, see all that stuff works, greatmortgagebroker.com. That's where you can get started. And we're more than happy to help. I'm just giving people honest advice. At the end of the day, you make your own decisions. I just want to help you make better ones.
There you go, bud. Take care. Have a good day.
Thanks, Mike.